Me Juliet was a 1954 musical comedy by Rodgers and Hammerstein. They had changed the American musical into a completely different animal with Oklahoma, Carousel, South Pacific, and The King and I, and now they were excited to make a different kind of show, an up-to-date musical comedy.
They intended for the show to be a valentine to their profession, a backstage story full of naturalistic detail. To begin with, it was to expose the personal lives of the cast and crew of a 6-month-old Broadway musical.
As Richard Rodgers said in his autobiography, we established the fact at the beginning that the show within a show was a success. The backer didn't pull out, the director wasn't desperate for his one big hit, the star didn't quit, and the chorus girl didn't take over. We simply wanted to reveal some real aspects of the world of the theater. As Ethan Morden tells us, they wanted to write about what it was like to be on a bare stage with the lone worklight, what it was like to audition for replacements, rehearsing numbers that had grown untidy, and the actual personal attachments of the company.
In fact, the whole show took place in the theater where the play within the play took place, in the alley outside, the stage door, and in the bar across the street.
That's actually Richard Rodgers in the Majestic watching Me and Juliet. Just putting it out there. Fascinating. And there is a set design.
Joe Milesner, the scenic and lighting designer, pulled off some cool stunts for the first time, for example, moving the stage of the theater 10 feet to the right as if a camera had panned 10 feet to the left to catch up on what was happening in the wings of the show.
My favorite part of Me and Juliet, one of my two favorite parts, is the opening of the second act called Intermission Talk, where Rodgers and Hammerstein decided to put the audience on stage. That's actually also a picture of Rodgers and Hammerstein writing Me and Juliet.
Totally posed.
Awesome. Well, yes, but that's actually what they were doing at the time. Awesome. So the audience is on stage at the beginning of the second act, and they sing about what they are and aren't enjoying about the play within a play. Then comes the lyric, "Oh, the theater is dying, the theater is dying, the theater is practically dead. Someone every day writes, we have no more playwrights, the theater is sick in the head, but the show still goes on, the theater's not gone, we wish it would lie down and die. Why the hell won't it lie down and die?" 1954, Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote this as what their idea of what an audience sounds like. Is that crazy? It's crazy.
Things have not changed.
It's my favorite.
The song goes on to discuss current theatrical happenings and stars, and one lady in the audience sings, "Back in my home in Long Island, I kept dreaming of Brynner in Thailand." This is while Yul Brynner and Rodgers and Hammerstein, he's in Rodgers and Hammerstein's King and I, which was actually across the street from Me and Juliet. Look at that.
The show centered around a soft guy, a bully, and the woman that they both want. She wants the soft guy, which leads the bully, who's one of the show's electricians, to drop a sandbag inches from her head during a performance. This was all fine and good, but George Abbott didn't seem to understand the play within the play or the deeper intentions of parts of the show. And as Morden says, it was tempting to blame Rodgers and Hammerstein for starting a revolution that overwhelmed even them. Interesting.
But actually, Me and Juliet was technically a hit as well. And at this point in the 1950s, there was room for a modest hit as well as the smash. It wasn't feast or famine like many people believe we have today on Broadway. And the song "That's the Way It Happens" was the intro number from Me and Juliet for the romantic leads. And Gerard Alessandrini said, "It has just the right pithiness and showbiz nonchalance called for." And here to sing that tune from Me and Juliet are Bill Coyne and Liz Lark Brown.
Woo!
You're a girl from Chicago on the road with a show. Not a soul in New Haven you can say you know. And you wish you were a mile or so from Michigan Lake, home with your mother and a T-bone steak. Then along comes a fella with a smile like a kid, and he grabs your attention with a timely bid. He says he knows a bistro where they give you a break with French fried potatoes and a T-bone steak. You are shy and uncertain, but he pleads and you yield, and you've barely an inkling that you're signed and sealed by merely telling someone you've agreed to partake with French fried potatoes and a T-bone steak. That's the way it happens. That's the way it happens. That's the way it
show. There's a girl in the company that you hardly know. You watch her and you wonder if she'd like to partake of French fried potatoes and a T-bone steak. Then along comes a fella who is quicker than you, and he does what you thought that you would like to do. He takes her to a bistro where they give you a break with French fried potatoes and a T-bone steak. Now you see them together, and you know in your heart that you lost what you wanted at the very start, because you didn't ask her if she'd like to partake of French fried potatoes and a T-bone steak. That's the way it happens. That's the way it happens. That's the way it happened to me. That's the way it happened to me.
People are so, the T-bone steak line just like
We think
sticks
that Raj
in
and
my...
Hammerstein were really hungry when they wrote that song.
I just can't stop thinking about that steak every time.
That
I
was
hear song.
awesome, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Success.